call this meeting of the Terrebonne Parish Council to order, and we'll have the invocation and the pledge by Councilman Steve Trosclair. Please rise. And Steve, please put on your light.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bow your heads, please. Loving and gracious God, help us to keep common good before us. Strengthen our gifts of wisdom, courage, and respect for the views of others. Strengthen us to continue to work with our leaders, seeking an ever more just society that acts in harmony and interdependence with all creation. In the name of Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord, amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Trosclair. Can we please get a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Harding, Mr. Michelle, present. Mr. Amity,
Here.
Ms. Domain,
Here.
Mr. Darren Guidry,
Here.
Mr. Babin,
Here.
Mr. Dirk Guidry,
Here.
Mr. Trusclair, Mr. Pleasure.
Here.
Madam Chairman, you have a count.
Thank you. Approve the minutes of the regular council session held on May 10th, 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dirk Guidry and second by Mr. Gerald Michel. Members, vote your machines. We have 8 yeas. Motion passes. Distribute the minutes of the regular council session held on May 24th, 2023. Approve the accounts payable list for 5/30/2023, 6/5/2023, and 6/12/2023. Moved by Mr. Darren Guidry, second by Mr. Steve Trosclair. Members, vote your machines. We have 8 yeas. Motion passes. Item 1, general business. Confirm the adoption of ordinance number 9473-2023 millages with no rollover forward provisions originally adopted on May 10th, 2023 as per state guidelines. Moved by Mr. Gerald Michel. Second by Mr. Dirk Guidry. Members, vote your machines. We have 8 yeas. Motion passes. Item B, Mr. Earl Hughes, Terrebonne Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness Director, to give a 2023 hurricane update. Mr. Hughes.
I think it's on. Okay. Madam Chair, council members, thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be here today. Yes, it's hurricane season, and the parish is prepared to take on this season as we have been in the past. The parish departments are getting their plans and reviewing their plans and making sure that they have any gaps that were known in the during Ida. So we're still continuing to work and make sure that we can take care of those gaps. Just a little synopsis on what we can expect this year. The National Hurricane Center is predicting a slightly above average hurricane season for us. They're predicting 12 to 17 named storms, 5 to 9 hurricanes, and 1 to 4 major hurricanes. So you just remember that that's not just for the Gulf of Mexico, that's for the whole Atlantic Basin, which, you know, goes all the way up to Greenland. So it's a very large basin. There is an El Nino that's going to develop in the Pacific. It's 90% sure that it will develop by the fall. The El Nino is good at preventing hurricanes in the Atlantic, but it really doesn't have any correlation or any effect on hurricanes that develop in the Gulf. So to give you some examples, 1957 was a El Nino year. Hurricane Audrey hit the southwest coast. 1965 was Betsy. That was an El Nino year also. Just recently in 1992, Hurricane Andrew was an El Nino year. So, well, well, just want to make sure, let the public know that, yes, we are in an El Nino year. Yes, we are still susceptible to hurricanes, and that people need to be prepared for one if, in the event that we experience a hurricane here in Terrebonne Parish. I like to warn people to beware of what I call social meteorologists. people that get on Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and try to do their own predictions on what storms are. Just to kind of give you an example, the cone of error 5 days out is 175 miles on each side. So people try to predict these storms 10 days out. So just imagine how far the track error is on 10 days. So I warn people with that. I do tell people that to be cognizant of what the National Hurricane Center, when they start pushing out their advisories, typically their models are very good. In the past 2 to 3 years, their models have even surpassed other models that they use throughout the world to predict hurricane tracks. The good thing is now with all the new technology, with the satellites that are available and the supercomputers, they are now able to give a 7-day outlook on tropical formation. So if on a National Hurricane website, if you go on that website, you'll see a 7-day forecast that moved up from 5 days. So we have a little more time to see these systems forming in the Atlantic and give us some time to do some preparation in the event that they should develop into any type of storm. As we've seen in the past, hurricanes can escalate pretty quickly. For you guys that remember Hurricane Ida, we had about 3 days when that storm was in the Gulf of Mexico, and next it was a tropical storm, turned into a hurricane, and 2 days later it's on our coastline. So the interesting thing is that over the last 6 major hurricanes that hit landfall in the United States, the first initial forecast to come out from the National Hurricane Center was 56 hours before landfall. So we used to all get comfortable with saying we got 5 days to prepare for the storm to come and to look at it for 5 days. We've seen that we need to start doing planning at least for 48 hours to initiate those storms that develop quickly in the Gulf of Mexico. Our standard operating procedure does have a procedure in there for 48 hours or less, but a lot has to be done in 48 hours. And we proved that during Hurricane Ida that we can do those things quickly that needs to be done and to shore up the parish and do the things that we need to do in the event that we have a landfall that quickly. I do want to remind the public that one of the biggest issues that we have right now is not only here, but across the Atlantic Basin, is trying to get the message out to people of what storm surge is and what storm surge means. So when we go do our talks throughout the parish, we're telling people what storm surge is. If they're predicting a storm surge of 5 to 6 feet, that means that's 5 to 6 feet above the ground level. Okay, so, the average person may be 6 feet, all right? So if they're telling you you're going to have a 9 to 12-foot storm surge, then it's going to be over your head. And it'll be top to your ceilings in your homes. Luckily here, we have a great hurricane protection system with the Morganza to the Gulf levee system. We're protected up to a certain amount of height. So, when the National Hurricane Center issues those storm surge warnings, we have to remember that we have a levee system up to about 15 feet to protect us. But if we ever have any overtopping, because we have a larger storm surge, people need to understand that our basin will fill up with water because it's overtopping and the storm surge is greater. So they really need to pay attention to that. The other thing we'd like to let people know is everybody's familiar with the cone of the track. People need to remember that there are damages extend well outside where that cone is. So just because you might be just on the outside of the cone doesn't mean that you're not going to get any hurricane force winds or storm surge or any other type of damage that may occur during a hurricane. That cone only tells you that that storm will stay inside, that will be within that cone 2/3 of the time. So there's a third of the time during those forecasts that it could be outside that cone, or 33% chance that it could be outside that cone. So we like to remind people that that there are damages that are outside that cone area. Before we had the cone, we used to have a straight line. People used to say, well, the straight line ain't coming to me. I don't have to worry about it. So then they developed the cone. So, and I think the cone does a good job with letting people know where the forecast track is. So, and now with the storm surge warnings that they're going to issue, people will see that there could be damage outside of that cone area. Some of the things that we've improved upon in the parish since Hurricane Ida, we have gotten equipment from FirstNet, which is our AT&T cellular network. We actually now own a compact rapid deployment unit. This is a device that we can roll out into our parking lot at the Emergency Operations Center, lift up the antennas on it, the satellite, and then once that it's up and running, first responders who are on the FirstNet network will have about 1.5 to 2 mile radius that we can operate our cell phones with immediately after the storm. We don't have to wait for the AT&T to bring another device down. They call them a sack coat, these trucks that they come with. We don't have to wait for that anymore. Immediately after the storm, we can put this up, and at least we have communications around our facility, and the emergency support function managers can operate and have cellular service in our area. So with that, we cover the sheriff's office because they're right in that area. Public Works will be covered, anything in that little complex, the juvie jail, animal shelter. And it's going to extend just probably past Bayou Cane Fire Station going towards Hollywood Road area. So this is just a Band-Aid for us until AT&T can bring in the other equipment. We have purchased some Starlink units. They're not in yet. These are satellite communications. If y'all are familiar with Elon Musk, he has a Starlink satellite system. These are low orbitable satellites. So we will be able to start using these to give us internet service. So we are going to place these at critical infrastructure areas within the parish, 911, IT, police department, fire department, government towers, so that we can have internet access. As long as we can have internet access and you have the right telephones, you can make a Wi-Fi call. So if your Verizon phone is out because you can't reach the tower, if you can get a Wi-Fi signal, you can make a Wi-Fi phone call. So that's the importance of getting those Starlink units for us in our area. One of the biggest complaints we heard during the after Ida was the public wasn't getting the information quick enough because we were all relying on cell phones and electronic devices. It's hard to, if you don't have a cell phone signal or if you didn't have electricity to recharge your phone, then you wasn't getting the information that you needed. We're currently working with the local radio station here in town and also with HTV to push out a FM radio signal. So one of the radio stations here in town has a 100,000 watt radio station. It'll cover the whole parish. We're working with them to see if they will stay at the EOC while we're activated on an emergency for 12 hours a day and broadcast immediate information from the Emergency Operations Center. This will allow people in their homes that are working on their homes to listen to the radio on a battery-operated radio. If they're traveling in their car, they can get information, or if they're working on the outside of their homes, they'll be able to hear this information and have a broadcast for 12 hours a day with pertinent information. The good thing about that is as we operate in Emergency Operations Center, those people that have information or those agencies and departments that need to push information out, they just have to walk outside, go to the radio station's van or wherever they're set up and give them that information immediately. So the public can get that. Once the public gets used to, once we finalize this agreement, and the public can start, if we have an event, they can start listening to that station and getting the information that they need. We're in the process of submitting a new disaster services contract. through purchasing and accounting. This will allow us to have one contract that'll handle all necessary equipment and supplies for the parish for our operations. In the past, we had to have a contract for portlets. We had to have a contract for, hand washing stations. We had to have a contract for base camps. We had to have a contract for just everything else. Now, we're going to go with one big contract, go out for bid, and these larger disaster companies are able to supply all of these items that need to be supplied during an event, so that when we need something, that person will be in our EOC. We just go to that person and say, hey, we need this, and they will obtain that for us. Take some of the pressure off of purchasing and Candace's resource group to have to call around and look for all of this information. Whoever wins this contract would have that equipment readily available or know where to get it so that we could have it readily available. We're meeting next week with the city of Monroe for our point-to-point shelter. And I know we're going to meet, but we're in constant contact all year long anyway, but we will be meeting with them and also the group from Oklahoma, the Office of Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness in Oklahoma, who runs our shelter in Monroe. So we're meeting with them next week to make sure that we have everything in place in the event that we have to go up to Monroe again for a Category 3, 4, or 5 storm. Along with that, with the city of Monroe, we still have our shelters available in town for tropical storms, Category 1s and 2s. We have increased that shelter capacity because of the number of people in temporary trailers. We still have about 1,200 families that are still in temporary trailers. So with an average of 3 people per trailer, we're looking at about 3,600 people that will need sheltering during a tropical storm Category 1 or Category 2. So we have sufficient shelter capacity and the sufficient manpower with the help from the state to make sure that we can run those shelters efficiently. We still have our buses and our bus contract, and we have bus drivers signed up in the event that we need to do a bus evacuation to our point-to-point in the city of Monroe. So we're ready for that. Today we had a meeting with the medical facilities located in Terrebonne Parish. Actually, the meeting was for the whole region, to where we met with nursing homes, dialysis centers, hospitals, home health, just about any medical company or corporation here today to go over any concerns and issues that they may have that we need to be aware of to assist them. Most of you are aware that there are new nursing home regulations that they have to have a plan. The plan has to be approved by our office and also by the Louisiana Department of Health. And we've been through those with our nursing homes. We have actually taken the nursing homes and sat down and went page by page with every one of their emergency response plans to offer them some suggestions if they needed some, and to make sure that they know we're here to help them and get that plan as efficient as possible, especially if they have to evacuate. We also make sure that in the event that those nursing homes have to take another nursing home in to our area, an example of that would be if a nursing home in North Louisiana would get hit by a tornado and their sister nursing home is here, they would probably send their patients here or their residents here. We need to make sure that when they receive those patients that they are able to take care of that number of increase in their patient load. So we've been working with them to make sure that they have those in place also. We've already met with state officials, making sure that we'll have available assistance to run the shelters, given that we would have to need more shelters than what we usually have because of the number of people in temporary travel trailers. DCFS and the Department of Health and other agencies such as the Louisiana National Guard will be available to assist us to run our shelters if we have to do that. The Louisiana National Guard has been down. They have reviewed all what we call our pod sites. Most of you guys call them our distribution sites for our commodities. They've been down, they've looked at them all, made sure what equipment they could get into those sites. And so when it's time to activate it, and if your site or that particular site is available, it's not underwater, then we know how many tractor trailer trucks we can put there and how many commodities and how many people it takes to run those particular pods. We're in the process of coordinating the parish emergency support function managers. Those are the people inside in the EOC that sit at our tables to have a meeting to go over any gaps that they may know of before we do get a storm. Those meetings will be completed by the mid-July to make sure that we're ready to go. Pretty much that's all I have to report on. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. It looks like we don't have any questions. It sounds like, though, part of people's emergency plan is that they need to either download a FM app on their phone or they need to get a battery-operated radio. That way they can keep up with those reports that are going to come over that FM. So maybe when we do push that out, we could add that to the list so that people do remember that. And then also, when you guys go up to Monroe, please send my warmest regards to Mayor Friday Ellis. We became very good friends after the hurricane. I went up there and visited that shelter, and they did a great job taking care of our residents. So definitely send our love and our thanks to him. But we really appreciate everything you do, Mr. Hughes.
Yeah, well, if any of y'all have any questions after the meeting, please don't hesitate to call me. I'll be glad to take care of any issues that y'all may have.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank y'all.
And before we begin, I apologize, we do have two dignitaries in our audience today. We have former parish president, Mr. Michel Claudet, visiting us today. And we also have our previous District 6 councilman, Mr. Red Hornsby, here today as well. So we just want to welcome them to our meeting today. Item 3, a resolution supporting the Hash Grant Association Incorporated application to FRTPL for the Bayou Terrebonne Trailhead Project. This is moved by Mr. Dirk Guidry and second by Mr. Brian Pledger. Before we go ahead and vote on this, we do have Mr. Noah Lerat with the Hash Grant Association to give us a little presentation. Is his microphone on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening, y'all. Thanks for having me. My name is Noah Lerat, president of the Hatch Grant Association. We're applying for a state grant to build a paddle launch in downtown Houma. We have a Main Street Master Corridor plan coming out soon. It's going to be mentioning paddle trails, areas such as ours, like New Iberia, Morgan City, Opelousas, those places that are lucky enough to have water in their downtown have installed these things with great success economically and for tourism. The place we would like to build it is by Peoples, where the old Pirogue launch used to be. I think it'd be a great place. It's right in the heart of downtown, and it just kind of makes sense to restore what was there already. So that's what we're trying to do. Just trying to get some money to build this project. That's, you know, we'll get the money next year, so it wouldn't start for a little while. But there's over $1.5 million available for this type of work, and it's just sitting there waiting to be used for something. So I think that we're kind of moving in this direction already in terms of hopefully focusing back on the water, our greatest commodity in Houma, and letting people get into it and enjoy it and using it for our benefit, not just worrying about it with storms. So I ask for your support in this grant, and I hope that we can build a whole bunch of these things, because I think it will be a great asset to our home. So thank you.
Thank you, Noah, and stay up there just in case we have any questions. But I just want to clarify for the public that this is just to apply for the grant. This isn't necessarily start the work just yet. There's still a lot of prep work to be had. Bayou Terrebonne has to be dredged and cleaned before we even start anything there. But I love this project because we talk so much about the parish being split, or, you know, us being, you know, separate. And so you're really connecting Gibson to Cocodrie. I mean, you can paddle the entire length of, if you want to, and now I don't know how long that would take you, but you can paddle the entire length of the parish, and it really connects us all. And so I think it's such a wonderful project. And so I really hope that this continues and that we continue to get support for this. So I thank you, Noah, for bringing this up today.
Thanks. Yeah, and that is a great thing. This would be the only loop in the state, and it's not something that you can do, or if you want to do it in one shot, you could, but you definitely do it in legs. And if we installed a trailhead at downtown Houma, we would already complete the first leg, because there is the public launch on Texas Gulf Road. So first leg's already done. So it'd be well in the works. So.
Absolutely, we appreciate it. So we have a motion and a second. Members, vote your machines. We have 8 yeas, motion passes. 9 yeas, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and Mr. Harding has joined us today. Item 2, council members requesting discussion and possible action regarding the removal of abandoned cables and phone lines owned by local service providers, including AT&T, Comcast, and Charter Communications. Mr. Steve Trusclair.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I put this on the agenda because, after Hurricane Ida, we had power lines, communication lines, and, just all over the parish down. Energy and Sleeka and the city power utilities pretty much came in and took care of their business in a relatively reasonable amount of time and efficiency. AT&T, I hadn't got any complaints about AT&T. I'm not sure about any of my colleagues, but they appear to have pretty much done what they need to do. The outlying areas of the parish, which encompasses all of my districts, the main cable and Wi-Fi cable company is Comcast, not Comcast, I'm sorry, but Charter Spectrum. And they seem to have a lot to be desired in the way they handle their situation. I mean, they still have cables running through people's yards, hanging on their fences, and they don't respond real well. I've been calling Parish Administrator Mike Toops several times. It took him a couple of weeks to even find somebody to speak to him from Comcast, Charter Spectrum, and we've actually had to get the Public Service Commission involved once before, and just in my district, I'm not sure of any other place in the parish to deal with Charter. So now, one of the big things that's really, besides the cables being in people's yards, AT&T Energy came through and changed a lot of the poles in the area. And it's my understanding, that we've had them here a couple of times, all these companies, that the owner of the pole is not responsible for the other people's cables that are hanging off their poles. I don't know if they rent that spot to them, or they let them use it for nothing to hang their cables on it. But in the event of a pole change out, Energy won't move their cables to the new pole. And what they do, they cut the top of the pole off, leave that old pole either, I've seen them hanging, bottom and top, just hanging from wires tied with a rope. But most of them now that I see they're still buried in the ground, but they're about 15 foot up, and then the communication lines are still on that pole. Now, about 4 or 5 months ago, Energy came through and changed, just on Country Drive, about a half-a-mile section of Country Drive that I travel every day. They changed several poles, and out of all the poles, 9 of them still have, 2 poles sitting side by side, one that's cut off, and that's just in one half-a-mile stretch. Now, they changed poles through the whole Country Drive section, Lower Country Drive and Country Drive. So I don't even know how many they have that's hanging. I know in Councilman Dirk Gitcher's district, he said there's many of them in his district that's in the same condition. I'm sure it's the same way all over the outlying areas that Comcast, I keep saying Comcast, but Charter Spectrum services. My thing is, what I'd like to know from maybe our parish attorney or someone can answer it, the pole belongs to Energy, and they replace the poles. Now, if they're leasing space on that pole to these companies to hang their cables on, why can't we hold Energy responsible to make sure those things get moved? Because Charter's not doing it, and I don't know what we can do to make them do it. But we need to get somebody, some way, if it's Energy's pole, I mean, it would be kind of similar into a nuisance abatement situation, whereas if a person's leasing some or renting a house and they don't maintain the property, they don't go after the renter, they go after the property owner. We send citations to the property owner. So I think what we should do is, if we can't get any resolution with Charter, we need to hold Energy to the fire and get Energy to push Charter, get your stuff off our pole so we can get these other poles out, because they won't pull it out until that wire's off. So that's my question, and Jules, maybe you can answer if you may know what their contracts are with these companies or what.
Thank you. There is a standing order with the Public Service Commission about pole attachment agreements, and there's a state statute on it, but basically, the Public Service Commission, the legislature passed a statute years ago, and the Public Service Commission regulates those pole attachment agreements. We've been down that before. And there's a standard agreement that they have to allow these companies to attach onto these poles. Now, I don't know what's happening if they're removing a pole and not moving the cable to the appropriate pole. And that's something that obviously I would have to look into and get with the Public Service Commission. But there's a standing order out there.
Can they stop here? Okay. They came, we've had them out meeting several times, and they stated at the meeting that when Energy changes a pole, they notify any other cable companies on that pole that the pole is ready for them to move their cable. Okay? Now, whether they're doing that or they're not, or the cable companies are disregarding their notice, but there's a breakdown in that section right there.
And I think that in order to be on that pole, there will be a pole attachment agreement, and I'm telling you, it's regulated by the PSC. I got a feeling, though, it costs money to move. And so they don't move fast on moving it. So somebody's without service. So what I'm saying, if it's that widespread of a problem, we may have to ask it to be docketed with the PSC and tell them the problems we're having. But when we're going to go, we don't want to go half-cocked. Let's get how many people are being affected by this and ask to be put on the public service agenda and tell them the problems that we're having, and these companies are not fulfilling those obligations. Now, that PSC member should be able to take care of that, but we may have to press a little harder, as I have to do sometimes.
Well, that's why I'm here. I mean, it says possible action. I think our action needs to be that we need to get somebody to push these guys to clean their poles up.
Do we know, Mike, if I can ask, how many people are affected by this? Do we have any idea? Nobody's
at an outage. Nobody has an outage, Jules, because the wires, the cables are all still intact. But they're just, Energy, when they put a new pole in, next to the old pole, they cut the top of that pole off, take their wire, put it on the top of the pole, because the power companies always have the higher cables.
Right, that's right.
The other cables, be it AT&T, Comcast, Charter, whoever else is on those poles, could be a combination of all of them. They leave those wires on the old pole and just cut the top off of that pole. And then, so now you got an old pole that's rotting at the ground because they changed it, sitting down with a bunch of wires hanging on it, which are communication wires, and you got a new pole with the new electric wires on the top of it.
Okay.
And they side by side.
So what you're saying is you want those old poles out and everything put on the new pole?
Well, definitely. I mean, that's the procedure. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Right. And so obviously somebody's saying, well, let us stay on the pole. You move yours. It's good enough. And if they're strapping them together, they may be trying to skirt it. But let me look into it and see what I can do. Okay,
I appreciate it.
I got the picture.
Thank you.
All right.
Item 3.
First, they go to 6 other public hearings.
Just tell them we don't need to.
We don't need to go in, yeah, so I'm just gonna read the public wishes to address the, okay. Item 3, public wishing to address the council. We have no speaker cards tonight. 6:30 public hearing. Item A, an ordinance to authorize the parish president to execute on behalf of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government a lease agreement with the Terrebonne Men's Carnival Club for the former Agriculture Center at Houma Terrebonne Airport, which will replace and extend the current lease, the former Agriculture Center at the Houma Terrebonne Airport, to continue to provide for livestock and agriculture fairs, exhibits, rodeos, horse shows, and recreational events that are open to the public. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Mr. Dirk Goodry, second by Mr. Daring Goodry. Steve Trusclair, I'm sorry. Members, vote your machines. I'm sorry, I always forget that.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Dirk Goodry and a second by Mr. Steve Trusclair. Member, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes. Item B, an ordinance authorizing the parish president to perform due diligence inspections and acquire on behalf of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, Terrebonne Parish parcel number 2089 and 208142, situated at 7910 Main Street, Houma, Louisiana 70360, plus the parking lot situated at the corner of Roussel and Belanger Street, currently owned by Hancock Whitney Bank, authorizing the execution of any purchase agreement, act of sales, and any other documents necessary or reasonable to facilitate same, and authorizing the parish president to execute on behalf of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government an agreement and any other necessary documents with the Louisiana Office of Community Development to obtain and facilitate funding for the purchase of said immovable property. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close by Mr. Steve Trosclair, second by Mr. Gerald Michel. Member, vote your machines.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Danny Babin, and a second by Mr. Steve Trosclair. We have one light, Mr. Gerald Michel.
Thank you. I'm just, I'm looking in here and it says, that TPCG has the opportunity to obtain HUD grant funds, and wishes to use OCD grant to fund this, but in the ordinance itself, it doesn't say that they're limited to doing that. So I just want to confirm how this is going to be funded.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We are going, back up a minute. Okay. We are trying to use our state OCD allocation, so CDBG allocation. We also have some other CDBG money that is possibly available, as well as some other hurricane recovery. So there's a lot of different funding sources that are coming through, and the intent is only to use money that is available for us through recovery money or federal money. So it wouldn't be anything local money to go to purchase it.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Babin.
Yeah, Candace, maybe you can answer this one. This is all in the works, right? We don't own it yet.
No, sir.
Whitney Bank has floors above the bottom floor. If we buy it, are they, let me ask this question, are they actively trying to seek tenants for that right now? Do you know?
They are not.
Okay.
They have current tenants. They will still be within the building, and Hancock Whitney will still keep a footprint in the building.
Okay, yeah, I knew they would. If we purchase the building and it's a parish building and we don't want to be in competition with other landowners in this parish who
Right.
have stuff to, that's why I was just wondering if they were actively seeking someone. If you're telling me no, thank you. All right.
Mr. Harding.
Yes, Ms. Malden, the advantage to this, and that's what I'm actually exposed to, there are a number of the departments and agencies that are within Terrebonne Parish, and they'll be paying a reasonable amount of money at these other locations. So we actually, with the purchase of this, we can actually take those departments and agencies, bring them to a central location downtown, and actually save money to what is projected to be saved money.
Yes,
saving
sir.
money.
Yes, sir. We have currently at least 2 departments that were temporarily relocated after the hurricane. And the original office buildings that they were in are no longer available for us to go in. And we are currently paying rent where we weren't paying rent before for those departments. So part of the intent of this purchase is to move our departments and kind of essentially locate everybody within downtown and not have to pay the rent that we're having to pay now.
Do we have any other questions? No. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes. Item C, an ordinance to approve an ad valorem tax exemption for Alexander Ryan Marine and Safety LLC, application number 202000524-ITE. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. John Amity. Members, vote your machines.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. John Amity. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes. Item D, an ordinance to appropriate funds relative to and for the adoption of the operating and capital budgets for the Terrebonne Parish Council on Aging. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close by Mr. Darren Gidry, second by Mr. Dirk Gidry. Members, vote your machines.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Daniel Babin and second by Mr. Gerald Michel. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes. Item E, an ordinance to amend the 2023 adopted operating budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Houma Police Department, $29,947. Houma Police Department, $495. Houma Fire Department, $12,000. Parish Transportation Fund, $200,000. Section 8 vouchers, $1,268,784. HUD CBDG Recovery, $358,000. American Rescue Plan Flock Cameras, $250,000. General Fund Bisland Public Cemetery, $52,400. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close by Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. Steve Trosclair. Members, vote your machines.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. Carl Harding. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes. Item F, an ordinance to dedicate and accept the maintenance operation of the streets, drainage, servitudes, and right-of-ways for Benjamin Estates Phase 1, energize and accept the street lights to incorporate Benjamin Drive and the extensions of Calumet Street and Oakley Avenue into the enhanced 911 emergency response system for the purpose of providing a better means of locating addresses. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Mr. John Amity and a second by Mr. Darren Gidry. Members, vote your machines.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. John Amity and a second by Mr. Darren Gidry. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes. Item G, an ordinance to dedicate and accept the maintenance operation of the streets, drainage, servitudes, sewer, and right-of-ways for Adley Oak Subdivision Phase B, energize and accept the street lights, and to incorporate Goldfinch Drive and Owl Drive and the extensions of Adley Avenue, Oriole Street, and Kingfisher Drive into the enhanced 911 emergency response system for the purpose of providing a better means of locating addresses. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Mr. John Amity, a second by Mr. Darren Gidry. Members, vote your machines.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. John Amity, a second by Mr. Darren Gidry. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes. Item H, an ordinance to dedicate and accept the maintenance operation of the streets, drainage, servitude, gas, and right-of-ways for West Manchester subdivision addition number 3, Phase B, energize and accept the streetlights, and to incorporate the extension of Exeter Run into the enhanced 911 emergency response system for the purpose of providing a better means of locating addresses. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Second.
Motion to close by Mr. Darren Guidry, second by Mr. John Amity. Members, vote your machines. Motion to adopt?
Motion adopted.
Okay. Motion to adopt by Mr. Darren Guidry.
Second.
Second by Mr. John Amity. We have a question by Mr. Danny Babin.
Yeah, I just want everybody to realize this is 3 ordinances in a row, ordinance to dedicate subdivisions. That's a good move for Terrebonne Parish. This is 3 new subdivisions that have completed. And, you know, after Ida, a lot of things slowed down, but this is good for Terrebonne Parish, right, Mr. Pulaski?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And thank you. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes. Item I, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the parish of Terrebonne so as to rezone from R1 single-family residential to R3 multifamily residential, Lot 7, Block D, Mechanicville, 115 King Street, Houma, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Sylvester Warren is the applicant. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close by Mr. Dirk Guidry, second by Mr. Danny Babin. Members, vote your machines.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Dirk Guidry, second by Mr. Danny Babin. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes. Item J, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the parish of Terrebonne so as to rezone from OL open land to I-1 light industrial track B of Danos Properties LLC, 1865 Valhalla Boulevard, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Danos Properties LLC is the applicant. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Mr. Carl Harding, as second by Mr. Steve Trosclair. Members, vote your machines.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Danny Babin, as second by Mr. Carl Harding. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes. Item 4, committee reports. Accept the minutes of the Terrebonne Parish Sales and Use Advisory Board meeting dated on May 23rd, 2023, and consider ratification of actions relative to the recommendation to accept the 2022 financial audit report as prepared by Bourgeois and Bennett.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dirk Guidry and second by Mr. Danny Babin. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas. Motion passes. Budget and Finance Committee, Mr. Dirk Guidry.
I'll make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee held on June 12, 2023, and have 2 public hearings. 1, introduce an ordinance to authorize the acquisition of revised lots D2 and D3 for expansion of the Bayou Country Sports Park, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, June 28, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Also introduce an ordinance to amend the 2023 adopted operating budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Houma Police Department, $2,443. General Office and Emergency Preparedness 2021 City Readiness Initiative, $23,839. Houma Police Department LCLE grant, $118,440. Houma Police Department LCLE grant, $75,933. Houma Police Department LCLE grant, $65,933. Flood Mitigation Assistance Program, $953,245. Housing and Human Services Head Start HVAC Systems, $27,687. Housing and Human Services, Head Start HVAC Systems, $10,000. Head Start Camera System, $55,733. Head Start, $32,333. Add one full-time program specialist, grade 206, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, June 28, 2023 at 6:30 p.m.
We have a motion by Mr. Guidry and a second by Mr. Babin. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, motion passes. Item C, Community Development and Planning Committee, Mr. John Amity.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Community Development and Planning Committee held on June 12, 2023, and I have 3 public hearings. The first is giving notice of intent to introduce a proposed ordinance to rename Exchange Alley as Graham Douglas Lane and calling a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, June 28, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. The second is giving notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the parish of Terrebonne so as to rezone from R1 single-family residential to R3M multifamily residential townhouse condominium tract A, B, C, D, A, 108 and 110 Marcel Lane, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. John D. Stevens Sr., applicant, and calling a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, July 26, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. And the third is to introduce an ordinance to authorize the acquisition from Irvin and Sandra Pellegrin certain immovable property located at 400 Lower Country Drive, Berg, Louisiana, and to provide for related matters and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, June 28, 2023 at 6:30 p.m.
We have a motion by Mr. John Amity and a second by Mr. Carl Harding. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, motion passes. Item D, Public Services Committee, Mr. Carl Harding.
Yes, thank you. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Public Service Committee held on June 12, 2023, with the ordinance to be introduced as per agenda item number 8, introducing an ordinance to authorize the relocation of the Terrebonne Parish precinct polling location for election held October 14, 2023, and all subsequent elections, and call for a public hearing in said matter on Wednesday, June 28, 2023 at 6:30 p.m., being corrected for non-substantive grammatical errors, and I have 2 public hearings. The first would be to introduce an ordinance to restructure Chapter 6 of the Terrebonne Parish Code of Ordinances by amending Section 6-122 and 6-127 to regulate the use of advertisement signs, and call for public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, June 28, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. And the second would be introducing the ordinance to authorize the relocation of Terrebonne Parish polling location for election of October 14, 2023, and call for subsequent election, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, June 28, 2023 at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Harding and a second by Mr. Amity. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas, motion passes. Item E, Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee, Mr. Gerald Michel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee held on June 12, 2023, and I have 1 public hearing, and that is to introduce an ordinance to amend the Terrebonne Parish Recreation Policy and Procedure Manual to address the attendance of districts to the Parish President's Recreation Advisory Board meetings, and call a public hearing on Wednesday, June 28, 2023 at 6:30 p.m.
We have a motion by Mr. Michel and a second by Mr. Babin. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, motion passes. Item 5, Streetlights. As per by Mr. Dirk Guidry, second by Mr. Michel. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas, motion passes. Item 6, Monthly Engineering Reports. As per by Mr. Dirk Guidry, second by Mr. Michel. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, motion passes. Item 7, Appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. Recreation District Number 7 Board, 1 expired term on 6/24/2023. Mr. Donald Tivett TVA expresses his interest in being reappointed.
Motion to open, close, and reappoint Mr. TV.
Motion to open, close, and reappoint by Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. Daniel Babin. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas. Congratulations to Mr. TVA. Item B, Consolidated Waterworks, one expired term on 6/30/2023. Representing Council District Number 8, Mr. Patrick D. Marcel submits application resume for consideration.
Motion to open, point Mr. Marcel.
We have a motion to open, close, and appoint Mr. Marcel by Mr. Dirk Gidry, and a second by Mr. Danny Babin. Members, vote your machines. We have 9 yeas, and congratulations to Mr. Marcel. Item 8, vacancies to various boards, committees, and commissions. Recreation District Number 2-3 Board, 1 vacancy due to a resignation. Recreation District Number 6 Board, 1 expiring term on 7/30/2023 and 1 expired term. Recreation District Number 11 Board, 1 expired term on 7/1/2023. Terrebonne General Medical Center Hospital Service District Number 1 Board, 3 expired terms on 7/31/2023. We have announcements. Parish President, any announcements? Mr. Mike Toops.
Thank you, Madam Chair. President Dove would like to invite everyone that hadn't got the information to Coastal Day tomorrow at the Civic Center. It'll be open from 3 to 8. The moderating panels start at 4 o'clock. The first panel will be moderated by Mr. Tony Alford. There'll be representatives from the Corps of Engineers, CPRA, our state senators are going to be there. All of our representatives should be there. Reggie Dupree from the Levy District, representatives from the North and South Lafourche Levy Districts. There'll be a complimentary meal served at 5:30. There are snowballs and kettle corn for the kids. And there'll be a second panel on important economic issues to coastal residents. And it'll be Henry Boulay from the Morganza Coalition Committee and other people. But we'd like to invite the viewing public also. It's at 10. It's very important. We'll be talking about the Morganza to Gulf Flood Risk Reduction System, coastal restoration projects. We'll have some of our equipment out there. We'll have pictures and slide presentations on our floodgates, our lock systems, pump stations, and levees, both Morganza to Gulf and redundant. So I think it'll be very informative. There's nothing more than coastal protection and flood protection for our parish. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Toops. We have another announcement, Mr. Michel.
Well, on the next item.
So sorry, Mr. Michel. Council members' announcements, Mr. Michel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, it's getting hot out there, so I'd like to please remind everybody to take breaks if you're working outside, and if you need to, stay hydrated and stay healthy. And I'd also like to ask all those who are healthy to please go and donate blood if you're able. Thank you.
Mr. Babin.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, getting hot, grass is growing a lot. Seeing way too many people blowing the grass in the street and not picking it up. Earl Hughes came up here and gave us a good presentation on the hurricanes coming. We need to stop this practice. To be perfectly honest, we almost need to take a look at an ordinance on that somebody needs to be maybe penalized if they're caught doing it, because all it's doing is clogging up our drains. So we have an ordinance in place, correct?
That's correct. Law enforcement just has to catch them in the act.
Okay. We can't, let me ask this, can I ask Chris a question, Ms. Domingue?
Yes, Ms. Babin.
Do they have to be in the act of doing it, or if you see it all in front of their house and the grass being cut? I mean, listen, I realize it's very ticklish, okay, but the point still remains is this is the time to start cleaning drains.
I don't know the answer if they, caught in the act, or what if somebody sends video footage of them doing it? Mm-hmm. That would be a question for law enforcement directly to see what they would need to, prosecute or cite that particular person for that act.
And also, you know, summertime, there's a lot of kids, well, all the kids are out of school. There's a lot of golf courts that are not roadworthy that are on the road. So just everyone be cautious out there because these 12 and 13-year-old kids don't have the response time that we do as adults driving automobiles. So be cautious. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. Item 10, staff reports. We have an add-on. Amend the NAACP Youth Council Juneteenth celebration co-sponsorship to include a request for insurance coverage.
Motion to add on.
Motion to add on by Mr. Dirk Gidry and a second by Mr. Carl Harding. Members, vote your machines. I'm sorry, public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close public.
Motion to close public by Mr. Gerald Michel and a second by Mr. Carl Harding. Members, vote your machines.
Point of order, we needed to vote on.
Yes,
add on.
we are adding on. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I misunderstood you when you said
Yes,
that.
sir.
All right, that's fine.
Yes, sir. All right, so this has now been added on to the agenda. So can we now get a motion?
This is where you need to call for public.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close by Mr. Brian Pledger and a second by Mr. Carl Harding. Members, vote your machines. We have a motion to adopt by Mr. Brian Pledger, second by Mr. Carl Harding. Mr. Michel.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question about this. Is there like still a maximum of $600 or whatever? Is that?
Mr. Michel, what happens is the applicant applies for this every year, and she just forgot to check off the box that said insurance.
But the maximum is still the same?
Yeah, it's still exactly the same. She just so that we could make sure that it's correct in our paperwork. So thank you, Mr. Michel. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Members, vote your machines. Nine yeas, motion passes. Motion adjourned by Mr. Gerald Michel and a second by Mr. Brian Pledger. Members, vote your machines. Good night, everyone.